Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to the Understanding Patient and Physician Gaps Among Diabetes Sufferers webinar. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. Afterwards, we will conduct a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during the presentation, please use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded, Thursday, June 14th, 2012. Our speakers on today's webinar are Ms. Carol Fitzgerald, President and CEO. Carol is a founder and owner of BuzzBack. To date, the company has become known as a leading pioneer of online market research and has won numerous awards in recognition of its innovative techniques and research staff, as well as Mr. Martin Oxley, Managing Director, Europe. Martin has been with BuzzBack Europe since its inception and has worked in research for over 20 years, and in this time worked for the two of the biggest global custom firms, Ipsos and TNS. Martin is the recipient of a 2009 MRS Fellowship and a regular speaker and chair of MRS and SMR events. Mr. Oxley, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the introduction. It's always interesting to hear a description of yourself read out. It would make my mother proud. But anyway, thank you for everyone for attending. In the next 20 or 30 minutes or so, we're going to share with you some work that we did in the UK and the US looking at physicians and patients suffering from diabetes. Incidentally, that's not physicians suffering from diabetes, the patients were. And so what we were looking at here was understanding a number of key components, which, as I said, we'll take you through. So if we could go to the next slide, Carol. The key takeaways from the presentation today is at the top there, looking at the similarities and differences, not only on some of the rational components, but importantly feelings and emotions between patients and doctors, understanding that relationship, because as I was always told when I was learning about marketing, is where there are gaps, where there are differences, there are opportunities. There are gaps in understanding and in terms of communication. So that's a key component of it. And the way we kind of get at it really is using visual techniques, as Carol will share in a moment, to understand getting access to people's stories, understanding storytelling. And then from this, we can decompose it into those constituent parts. So understanding the visual imagery as well as the verbal language that people use. And the way we're getting at all of that is really using some pioneering techniques that we've designed to uncover these feelings, and doing it in a way that's quantitative, that's measurement, but more importantly, giving the patient or doctor the opportunity to speak. So we can go to the next slide. What we're doing with these techniques is really trying to avoid what I call at the top of this slide, the problem with direct questioning. Now, direct questioning has been used for many years in market research, and it really is helpful, but sometimes it's really not helpful at all. And perhaps my favorite example of a direct questioner is a client of mine who's been asking for the last 8 years, why do you drink the brand Evian? And the number one reason has been, because I'm thirsty. Now that is hysterically funny, but not if you spent millions of pounds behind a brand understanding why it's differentiated from the competitors. So that's a low involvement category. People are, not responding in the right way to direct questions. But what about a high involvement category? What about something that I can't think of anything more highly involved than walking between the Twin Towers? And that's what the image in front of you. So if you imagine this little French guy called Philippe Petit, who walked between the Twin Towers, listen to what he has to say when the American police asked him, why did you do it? If we could run the video.
Did he say anything about why he was doing it? No.
Why did you do it?
I will explain. I'm going to
Why? And that was a very, again, in my way of seeing America, a very American figure-stamping question. I did something magnificent and mysterious, and I got a practical why. And the beauty of it is that I didn't have any why.
Why did you do this?
That's the thousand why in this morning. There is no why.
Okay, so I hope you got the gist of, Philippe Petit just did something that is spine tingling, and yet when a direct question was asked, he just couldn't explain it. However, if you watch the movie for 2 hours, you fully understand why he did it, because you listen to his story and then you can disentangle the motivations from that. And that motivation really is perhaps best encapsulated with Johari's window, which was developed by Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham in the 50s in the States, when they were looking at mental stability or instability. And this is a really useful model to think about it. The open arena at the top is direct questions, really. But what we as a company focus a lot on is the two lighter blue, is the things that people are reluctant to say but are aware of, or things that they are not aware of but are prepared to say. And the way we can get at that, Carol, if we can go to the next slide, is using some projective and enabling techniques that Carol will share with you in the rest of the presentation. So that's my bit over. So now I'll hand over to Carol to take you through the detail of the presentation and the detail of the findings.
Thank you, Martin. Okay, so let me just get this launched up here. Hopefully you can all see my screen, which is not going into slideshow. There we go. Sorry about that. So let me tell you a little bit about our study. We picked the topic of type 2 diabetes because we have a number of clients that are working on this problem, and it's a growing problem, as you can see. But the companies that are working on solutions actually range from our top pharmaceutical clients to food companies and even retailers we've had participating. And what we were trying to understand is more about how patients feel and some of the suffering that they live with day to day, as well as what doctors perceive their patients are actually experiencing. And as Martin pointed out, we'll go into a little bit of the similarities and gaps in this understanding. In the study itself, we had a little over 150 physician endos, and those were split between the US and UK, and over 200 sufferers of type 2 diabetes who we screened on taking oral medication. And today we're going to focus mostly on total results in these 20 minutes or so that we have, but if you'd like a copy of the full report, there'll be information at the end, and you'll be able to look at some of the differences between the markets there. So just a minute to thank some of our partners, M3, who provided doctors for this study, and DataWise, with whom we work for our data production and helping in some of the linguistic analysis. So let's look at our patients. On average, they told us they were diagnosed within the past 5 years-ish or so. And the factors that contributed to their type 2 diabetes range from weight and diet and genetics to basic things associated with lifestyle. And this was an open-ended question that we asked them, and you see some of the responses shown here in their verbatims. And we're going to really focus on some of the verbatims as we look at the projectives in particular to get some more understanding of what the numbers are telling us. For our doctors, they're seeing on average about 45 patients a week and writing about 165 scripts or so per month. So what was the study actually about? Well, as Martin hinted a little bit in the beginning, we focused a little bit on the factors and the challenges and the day-to-day behaviors and attitudes associated with type 2 diabetes, but also what we're really trying to get at are some of the feelings and some of the things that these respondents wish for. And these are just a couple of the projective techniques that we use. We're actually going to show you a few demos. These are proprietary techniques to BuzzBack. And what the theme should be that you take away here is this focus on the visual and us using pictures and images to help us get to richer language and kind of get to that quadrant on the Johari that Martin was pointing out. The survey itself actually has a mirror kind of structure where we ask patients a series of questions, but then we also ask the doctors to comment on similar topics, projecting what they think their patients are going through. So one of the first things we focus on in an open-ended question is, what are the challenges? And what we see here, patients on the left and doctors on the right, are some very strong similarities. So the challenges of living with type 2 diabetes is about managing your diet and food and exercise and weight. For doctors, we see a little bit more mention around compliance and medication and the importance of sticking to that regime of the actual management. But